Hey.
Hello, hello, hello.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? We are back on another week of the God Squad Live. What's up, Dillon Desimber Cruz?
Surfing the apocalypse. Every week, catching another apocalyptic wave.
There
Shit's
you go.
crazy.
It is crazy, and it ain't getting any less crazy as the day goes by. It didn't get any less crazy. We had a great show last night on John Fugazang's Tell Me Everything on Progress Radio 127. Listen, if you are not listening to that, try listening to that. That is John Fugazang's Tell Me Everything on Sirius XM. Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Progress Radio Channel 127. Anyway, but we are here. We are back. It's just us, Dillon and Desimber, putting it down. Faith, sanity, politics, trying to help y'all get through the mess, through all the, all the BS. What's going on in the news? WTF in the news this week? What is going on besides every damn thing? What is going on?
Well, I don't know if y'all saw this, but last night, I think it was after we got off the air with John, I saw that Trump had posted on his Truth Social, fascist all the time channel, this picture. And I'm going to bring it up. And I know that people tomorrow aren't going to be able to hear us if they're just listening, but there's a picture of Trump where he says he's on a mission from God. And at the bottom, it says, and nothing can stop it. And that's straight up QAnon language. But on the picture, I circled because I didn't notice it the first couple times I saw it. And somebody pointed it out on social media. If you look to behind Trump's right-hand side, Pepe the Frog, which is a white supremacist symbol that the alt-right uses all the time, the groypers, the incels, and those kind of folks. So Trump is posting blatant QAnon and white supremacy on his Truth Social. And there are still people in this world who say, I've never seen Trump say anything racist or do anything racist. And why do you hate Trump and make up all these lies about he's racist? He's posting white supremacy and engaging in white supremacy every fucking day. That's why.
There's something every day.
And God ain't got nothing to do with what he's doing. This is blasphemous and delusions of grandeur and just straight up horseshit. God ain't got shit to do with this. No. And I don't understand how people can say that anything about this is Christian or looks like Christ. I saw a woman today claim that, Trump is the lesser of two evils because the Democratic Party is feeding cultural decline and cultural decay. That whole worn out culture war trope that the nation going to hell in a handbasket because of gay people and black and brown people and all that kind of stuff. No, God has nothing whatsoever to do with this fool and all the stupid shit that he's doing.
And every day is something new with him that he's up to conjuring up. Every day he wake up and say something or do something that's just completely and utterly ridiculous. What's up, Keith? What's up, Beth? Good evening. Good evening to y'all. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I promise you, every day he gets up and says something that would be completely unacceptable if anybody else did. It's like whatever. It doesn't matter. He could say something completely off the wall, senile, off topic. Just it could be lunacy, and they'll try to, what you call sane wash.
Yeah.
Sane. That's the new term in the Trump era. Sane wash the bullshit that he says.
Yeah. Well, I saw today some videos of a representative from Iowa. Ashley Henson was her name. And she was up there talking about, legislation and all this stuff in Iowa. And it's hard to get more red than Iowa. And she was getting booed and shouted down. And then some gentleman who, he was dressed like a farmer. He had a ball cap and blue jeans and a long sleeve button down shirt, and looked like he was about to go plow his back 40 or something. And he said Congress is supposed to have a check on executive power. And we're seeing Trump do illegal things every day. So why aren't you, as a congressional representative, doing your job, which is to impeach the president if the president engages in unlawful acts? This was a voter in Iowa. So I hope and pray that there's a sea change in this country and that people start waking up. You don't get a gift of a $400 million damn airplane or pardon somebody because somebody's mama gave you $1 million and all this stuff. And did you see that he pardoned a gang leader dude who, even after he was in prison, was running a multi-million-dollar drug ring from prison? And he pardoned him. But we're kicking all the people who have brown skin and speak Spanish or maybe French or Creole or whatever, kicking them out of the country because they're bringing drugs and gangs and all this stuff. But he literally pardoned a hardened criminal running a multi-million-dollar drug empire.
All I gotta say
it make sense. Yeah, make it make sense. And I'm pretty sure that dude was white. But that's not the first drug dealer he's pardoned since he got in. Remember that guy that he pardoned that was like $250 million worth of illegal drugs using cryptocurrency and shit?
Not only that, another issue I have with some of these pardons is he pardoned these folks who committed white-collar crimes, and they don't have to pay the restitution for the money that they stole. And it's like, who else? I guess if you're a 2-bit thief or something, you're going to get all this time. You got to do the time for your crime. But if you steal it to the tunes of millions or billions, I guess you're too big for jail.
I could see some civil lawsuits coming from that.
Yeah.
From people that those people, fleeced and stole their money or whatever. If that's the kind of crime, that there'll be some civil lawsuits because he can't pardon a civil lawsuit. You can't do. The executive has no power over that.
And it's not going to be considered double jeopardy either because it didn't come civilly; it came criminally, and then you've been pardoned for the criminal part of it, which doesn't mean you didn't do it. It just means, hey, well, I like you. Your skin is the right color. You did you committed the right kind of crime, the same kind that I've been committing.
Some of those people pled guilty.
Yeah.
So it's not like they can say, "Oh, we were unjustly." No, you were guilty. You knew you were guilty. You pled guilty, and now you're getting a free pass because this lawless, so-called law and order president is just going to let people off the hook if they pay to play or what. There's got to be something with all of them because it's always a quid pro quo with that guy. Always. There's got to be something.
Everything is transactional.
Yeah.
There's nothing that he's doing just for the good of it. Nothing. Or even whether it is good at all. Everything is transactional. Speaking of transactions, the tariff situation, the Great Liberation Day that came and went and never came at all. Apparently, for a moment, there was a judge that had some good sense and decided that, the ability to enact and de-enact or deactivate tariffs belongs with the Congress, according to law. And then you had, this is why judges matter, right? Then you have an appeals court judge that reinstated most of his tariffs for now, anyways. When the Constitution is clear, but this is why judges matter, and this is why Republicans spent so much time filibustering Obama's and then Biden's judge picks. And if you remember, Mitch McConnell specifically boasted about how he derailed and just straight up blocked Obama's judges picks. You remember he boasted about that. And
he said, we're not going to let him pick a judge when he's only got this short amount of time in office. And then when Trump had a short amount of time in office, he let him pick a judge. It was the same. It was even a shorter amount of time.
It was months where Obama had almost a year.
Yeah.
they rammed, I think, Amy and what's his name through in a couple months.
Yeah.
And so this is why the judges are so important, because you could shop around or find a judge in a jurisdiction like what's her name, uh, the one that held up all his cases about the
Oh, that one
Mar-a-Lago.
down in Georgia. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, Florida, rather.
Florida.
Florida,
Yeah,
whatever
she
her name is.
literally is just dereliction of total dereliction of duty, right? But she did what he put her there to do, right?
Exactly.
To
Yeah.
toe the line and carry the water for him as asked, which is what the Supreme Court also tends to do, although they have had some moments of clarity here as of late,
Yeah.
minus the two that always go with whatever Trump is talking about. He could say he ought to be able to kill people just because he wake up and they said something bad about him and he see it on the news, and them doggone Alito and Clarence Thomas will be like, yes, you should be able to do that, sir. They will literally lick his booty crack no matter what he say.
That's not an image I want to see in my head, but
I'm just
yeah.
straight dookie on the tongue every time. No matter what he say, they're like, yes, you should be able to do that. Immunity, yes, yes, you should be able to do that. Sending folks to country that they didn't come from with no due process, yes, yeah, yeah, you should be able to do that. We're in an emergency. You should be able to do emergency powers. What? Yeah, yeah, you should be able to do that. You should be able to wake up and declare that the United States is an emergency and under siege, and then be able to enact certain things that are only set aside for when we're actively at war, engaged in a declared war. Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Yeah. Well,
Those
I
things.
saw today that Jamie Raskin, the congressman from Maryland, said that federal courts have issued more than 160 preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders for ICE's rampant illegal activity, and he was bringing that up in the context of interviewing the former head of ICE, talking about oversight and all that stuff. And the guy who used to be the head of ICE was like, yeah, what they're doing is rampantly lawless. And Congress people, both sides of the aisle in the previous administration, were going and doing their due diligence and doing oversight over these, facilities. And now you've got Tom Homan, that fascist. I mean, and have you ever seen him on Fox? He sits there like he's trying to puff his chest out, and he
Mm-hmm.
and he talks like he's got a mouthful of rocks or something,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and he's trying to play the tough guy and shit, and and threatening Congress people with jail, and these people. That's what gets me, is they think they can do this with impunity, and that people are just going to sit back and not do anything. And
Mm.
I, man, I hope that they
I
are
hope they're
wrong and
wrong.
get their asses handed to them.
I hope
One of
so.
these days, the piper's going to have to be paid. And
I do
if
hope.
all these judges are standing firm and holding the line, then maybe we've got a chance. And
Maybe.
I've read somewhere that the more people speak out and say that this is wrong, the less they can get away with it. And
Absolutely.
that's what we've got to hope. Because this shit is exhausting, y'all. It
It
is
really is.
exhausting.
Every day, it's like they're trying to find a new way to circumvent the rule of law. Mind you,
Yeah.
this is the party that used to be rule of law, family values, fiscal responsibility. That was the pillar. They don't have a pillar anymore. They didn't have a pillar. They
No.
haven't had a pillar since 2016. It's whatever Trump says, that's it. They no longer even have any a pillar or a program, a profile, a platform, or nothing. It's just whatever Trump says, and we gonna stay out his way so he don't encourage somebody to primary us. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Because he'll do that. As soon as you get on his wrong side, I think he needs, it's time for him to encourage somebody to primary you, and then encourage donors to go give the person money to primary you right up out of your seat. And
Yeah.
so,
What I want to see more media just saying, look, he's doing illegal things. And I was watching a video on Midas Touch Network, and it was Brett Macias and some guy from Secular Talk. I can't remember his name.
hmm,
And they were complaining that the media was like, who's going to be the next, the left wing version of Joe Rogan? And they were like, we don't need that. We need y'all to shut the fuck up and just say, this is what's happening.
Right.
These are the things that are happening. Document the illegality, document the human rights abuses, document the absolutely brazen corruption and profiting off of the office and selling the White House to the highest bidder and doing Putin's fucking bidding and all of these things. Document that shit and then run on it.
Run like your ass is on fire, because there's so much to run on. I mean, the thing is, we have 4 more years to do. It's only May. We're only how many months? 3 months. 3 months and some change. February, March, April, May. We're about 4 months into this debacle, this destruction, this Armageddon or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? This apocalypse, like you said. We're only 4 months in. We have almost 4 years left of this, and we cannot afford. You really can't afford to get tired. You can't,
Right.
Because I believe the objective is to flood the system with corruption, with lunacy, with outright cruelty, whatever. It's like a shock and awe campaign. Every day is something ridiculous. I think about the Oval Office meeting with the president of South Africa and how that crazy. You're talking to a president of a sovereign nation, showing him a video and some pictures of stuff that ain't even. If you had just done it, you got the whole FBI, CIA, secrets. You got all this stuff at your disposal, and you couldn't figure out that the videos and stuff you were showing wasn't even nothing to do with South Africa.
Trump probably thinks Africa's a country.
I'm sure.
Because, it's mostly just black people over there. So why would he even care that South Africa and the Congo are a long fucking way away from each other?
Right. I promise you he doesn't. So it didn't matter. I don't know who handed him that paper, because he ain't doing research about nothing. But it didn't dawn on him 1 second to double check it. It's black folks. It's Africa. It must be true. It don't matter that I'm showing the South African president a picture from something that happened in the Congo.
Yeah.
And the way that to me, the fact that this stuff doesn't get more coverage, that it's not a big uproar. Like, did you see this? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's just Trump doing Trump. That's just, you know what I'm saying? The thing with Elon and him basically doing a Tesla blowout sale on the White House lawn. Can you imagine if Obama or Biden would have brought one of his buddies up there and did just this one person with their one car and their one dealership promoting them on the White House lawn? Can you imagine how that would have gone and how that would have went over? Like,
I mean, Obama wore a tan suit and they lost their damn mind over a tan suit. He did not embarrass himself and 350 million people on the international stage. He made a fashion choice that some idiots who were racist didn't like. But Trump can just be a god-awful embarrassment. And
it's
I saw today,
everything goes.
and it's okay with them. But I saw today that they're getting sued by over an ADA violation because Trump removed ASL interpreters.
Now, why would he do that? Besides, he's just
from the White House because because he's a clown, and so they're getting sued because every person, regardless of ability, has the right to be able to understand what the so-called leader of the country in the free world is saying. So I just hope all these lawsuits and everything keeps coming. Stephen Miller's whining on Twitter that we're under a judicial despotism. And Carolyn Levitt, right before we came on, I saw a video of her talking about how judges don't have the right to do the things they're doing. Woman, if you don't know what checks and balances are, you don't have any business being the White House press secretary. And again, I'm going to ask the question again. What child wakes up in the morning and mommy and daddy say, what do you want to be when you grow up, little Caroline? I want to be a fascist mouthpiece for Donald Trump, a sexual predator, because that's what she's doing. And and that cross, I'm surprised it doesn't brand her skin like a vampire or some kind of shit. Because I just, these people are getting on my last fucking nerve
Well, before they
every
get
week.
too much on your nerves, please can you share with us? I know you got somebody you
I
can share
do.
with us that is the fundamentalist. You know what? Who is
Yes.
who you got for the people? Who you got for the people?
Well, last week we had a guest and we didn't swear at all, so I'm making up for lost time this week. But this week, the representative for fundamentalist fuckwittery of the week is Pastor Travis Johnson, the pastor of Pathway Church in Mobile, Alabama. It is a Pentecostal NAR kind of church. He hangs out with those kind of people, and this is something.
This a little bit more and gave us this family called the church. Can you believe it? I mean, I'm saved by Jesus, but I couldn't make it through life without the church. Somebody say, the church. Come on, put some stank on it. One more time. Amen. If you're not in church, get to church.
Oh, what the hell just happened there? Okay, well, Dillon I had a whole video that did not play, and that's not how that was supposed to go. Anyway, Johnson claims to have been canceled because of a prayer that he prayed at the Mobile City Council. Now, he went there to pray because people were going to complain about an LGBTQ friendly art walk. An art walk in a city park. Okay. And the Mobile City Council is like, everybody has a right to be in the park. Everybody has a right to use the park, and events can be used and all this stuff. And he claimed he got canceled because his prayer targeted the LGBTQ plus community. And later in that video, which I messed up on Opus, he starts talking about he's not going to apologize for that prayer. We don't bow, we don't bend, and all that stuff. Because he's one of those people who spreads misinformation that being around LGBTQ plus art or people or culture is going to turn people gay, and that it's targeting children. Folks, I'm going to make a little admission. I had a long dating dry spell recently in the last year or so. If it was a choice to be gay, I would have expanded my horizons by 50% of the population just to have some companionship and go on a date. But guess what? It ain't a choice. It don't work like that.
The fact that women are still choosing men in this environment lets you know that it's
not a choice. Come on. They choose bears sometimes. But here's the thing. If your city in a public space is hosting a drag queen story hour or LGBTQ friendly art walk, and you don't want to see the queer art or the queer culture or the queer anything, there are choices that you can make. You can stay your ass at home. You could go to a different park. You could go hide in a closet and pray, because Jesus said don't be praying on the street corners and whatnot. You could do any number of other things in this world where information and entertainment is at your fingertips. You could do something else. But he chose to pray before a city council meeting for 6 minutes.
6 minutes?
So who prays for 6 minutes?
I mean, people do, but I know they didn't ask you to do an intercessory prayer up in the city council. I know they didn't.
I mean, at a city council meeting. Now, first of all, it's a civic thing. There shouldn't be prayer there unless you're going to invite a rabbi, a Sikh, an imam, or okay, you're next. You're next. Try to keep it to 30 seconds or less. Don't do like 6 minutes like this last clown did, kind of thing. But his church also hosted something called Flashpoint Live. And this is I don't see anything on here that says that they're NAR types, New Apostolic Reformation types, but they say that kind of thing, And Flashpoint says that they're a unique melting pot where we dive into pressing political issues of our time with Christian politicians, pastors, business leaders, entertainers, and influencers to press into what God is saying in this season. And at his church, somebody, it says, gave a prophetic word during the middle of the service that the Gulf of America states, I guess he meant, was going to align with Middle America, and that God, the Gulf of America shall align with the middle of this country, and I will fulfill your prayers, your dreams, your desires, not just for your sake, but I've heard your prayers, says the living God. If that's the kind of thing, if you think that God is telling that clown on that stage that the hatred and the bigotry and the anti-democracy and all that stuff is the word of the living God, I got some oceanfront property in Moab, Utah that I am willing to sell real cheap, super duper cheap.
$1 an acre.
And then this clown was brought to the White House so that Trump could sign his stupid, ridiculous, not necessary executive order about the Religious Freedom Commission. And I don't know if y'all remember, but here's what the hell. Come on, Dillon. My computer's being stupid tonight. I was going to read a clip from that, but apparently I can't do it. Okay, there it goes. This will protect the First Amendment rights of pastors, religious leaders, houses of worship, faith-based institutions, and religious speakers. Attacks across America on houses of worship of many religions, debanking of religious entities, the First Amendment rights of teachers, students, military chaplains, service members, and employers and employees, conscious protections in the healthcare field and concerning vaccine mandates, parents' authority to direct the care, upbringing, and education of their children, including the right to choose a religious education, etc., etc. Now, a lot of those things are illegal. A military chaplain cannot tell a gay service member that they're going to hell. Can't do it. But Trump wants to make that a thing so that Pete Hegseth's kind of chaplains can do that kind of thing. And Travis Johnson said, Psalm 118:23, this is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes, at the White House Rose Garden when President Trump signed this executive order. Folks, this ain't God's doing. This is Donald Trump pandering to Christian nationalists because they're convenient tools for him. And this is Christian nationalists using Donald Trump's power and influence because he's convenient to them. It is an unholy alliance, a toxic symbiosis, and it's anti-democratic, it's unconstitutional. And for all of those reasons, Travis Johnson is this week's representative of fundamentalist fuckwittery. And I'm going to do some digging on this Flashpoint live and Flashpoint stuff. So they'll probably be featured on this segment in coming weeks because they're the kind of people that inexplicably have influence over large numbers of people. His church looks like it's pretty big in Mobile. And if that's the kind of crap that they're preaching and teaching, and as Desimber said, if you didn't hear last night's episode, we went through the clobber passages pretty carefully last night on Sirius XM. These people don't know what they're talking about. And they're just using the Bible as a weapon to hurt people and to, as John says, to make sure that their club is number one. Mm-hmm. It ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. Ain't got nothing to do with democracy.
Or having a relationship with God. Or any of the things that Christ's mission was about when they claimed he walked the earth.
Yeah. And I don't have any problem with ecstatic religious experiences like they have in Pentecostal and holiness churches. I've had plenty of ecstatic religious experiences, both within the context of Christianity and outside the context of Christianity. But the Pentecostals have been pushing this Christian nationalism for a while now. And look, Religious freedom says that you can do in the context, if you want to preach in your church that being gay is going to send you to hell, or that hell is real and that, some people deserve to go there, nobody's going to knock on the door and stop you from doing that. But you don't get to tell other people that they can't do what they want to do. That's not what religious freedom is. It does not mean that you get to codify your religion into law.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you,
that's what they want to do.
Exactly. But if
not
if
just
somebody,
their religion, but the specific narrow version of their specific practice of their religion, not just Christianity now. Their version of Christianity, white Christian nationalism, Christianity, extremely conservative, oppressive to women, dismissive to immigrants, racist, homophobic, xenophobic Christianity.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine if there was an extreme Orthodox rabbi or an imam that suddenly got elected to the Senate or the House or the presidency, and they were like, women have to cover up their hair and wear a burqa and the various different garments of the Muslim world, or you can't eat pork anymore. We're releasing all the pigs. You can't have any barbecue sandwich, pulled pork sandwich no more.
Pulled pork.
People would lose their damn
minds. They would set the White House on fire.
But because these are Christians, they think that somehow they think that's okay. And guess what? It ain't. And it don't look like Jesus. And Jesus never said to do any of it.
There's nothing about Christ that is exemplified in this administration. Period.
Right.
Period. Nothing. Now, someone can argue on that if they want to. Nothing. Even the good things, the few good things that they're doing is for other ends and means. Yeah. Meaning the motive and the heart of it is not right. And you can look in the Bible at Ananias and Sapphira and see how God feels about that. About you doing something good in front of people, but your heart not right about it. Yeah. Damn the money. Damn whatever it is that you're doing. If your heart ain't right about it, God ain't with you on it.
And if y'all don't know, Ananias and his wife, they tried to pull the wool over Peter's eyes, and as Acts 5 says, he called them on it, and they dropped dead, like immediately.
I'm dead. Well,
God, the Lord done called them home.
Here's something that's important too for a little mini Bible study. They didn't drop dead at the same time.
Right.
Ananias dropped dead first. And then came Sapphira, and she dropped. And to me, that's important because you will always have an opportunity. Now, these two are married. These two are in covenant with each other. These two were together on the plan that they had to do what they did. But you will always have an opportunity to do the right thing as an individual, separate from your party, separate from your president, separate from your people, separate from your parents, separate from whatever the hell you're connected to. You will always have the opportunity to choose to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing is a lot of herd mentality where it comes to Trump, where everybody's just going along to get along. I'm reminded of this congressman, I think it's in Nebraska, where he was doing a town hall, and he's got under a lot of fire because the people were asking him about specific provision, and his thing was, I think it was about something in this big beautiful bill that allows Trump not to be held in contempt when he violates the judge's order, something to do with that.
Yeah.
And his response to them was, well, I wasn't aware of that provision in there when I voted on it. In other words, he didn't read the damn thing. Okay.
Right.
And so and that is indicative of all of them to me. It's like, it don't matter. As long as I don't get on the bad side of this man, I'm going to go with whatever he say. It doesn't matter how it affects my constituents, how it affects my people, or even how it even affects my own family and those close to me and people I love and people that love me. That doesn't even matter. All that matters is I protect my position of power and I go along to get along.
Yeah. And that whole, we're just following orders. Well, if it's an unconstitutional order, it's illegal and you're not supposed to follow it. Mm-hmm. And if you took an oath to the Constitution, you're not supposed to, you didn't take a loyalty oath to Donald Trump. And we all know that he loves loyalty above all. And that's why at that cabinet meeting, everybody was doing their best to one up how they could compliment him and puff up his
Oh, that made me
ego and
want to
whatnot.
gag. I'm
Oh,
gonna throw up in my mouthwash. I can't get through those cabinet meetings. Can you imagine if Biden's cabinet meeting started out like that, just going around heaping praises?
Oh, Joe, you're just the
so
most
wonderful.
spry and most cognitively amazing
So
president
awake.
that's ever been. And
So
oh my
alert.
God, I love you so much. Give me a big old hug.
Oh my gosh. It just,
Yeah, it was gross with a capital G.
It's
capital
wild.
G
It's
gross.
wild. But listen, it's about that time right now for this, you know what? But I'm changing it to malfeasance this week. And
Okay.
also, I'm going to be doing my best to rein in the language a little bit because we want to eventually get our show heavily monetized. And, so we got to make sure that we could, try to appeal to all audiences and things like that there. But y'all know what word I'm talking about. And so, anyways, my thing this week is the big, beautiful bill. But I want to start off with a video first. Senator Warren, I want to start off with a video first. I just love this lady. I love everything about her. Too bad the country can't see the way around to electing a woman, and most definitely probably wouldn't elect her. They probably think she's too liberal, although she'd probably be the best thing that ever happened to this country. But that's just my opinion. Anyhow, I want to show you this video, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
In the dead of night, Republicans moved along their big, beautiful bill. And that's the Republican way. They schedule their first vote for 10:30 on a Sunday night, and the follow-up vote is for 1 a.m. on a Wednesday. Why those times? Because they don't want anyone to see it. Because here's the basics of the bill. It says that there's going to be a cut to healthcare for about 14 million people. And that's mostly going to be little babies who need their health care. It's going to be brand new mamas. It's going to be people who've lost their jobs and need health care. It's going to be some seniors and people living in nursing homes. Cut health care for 14 million people in this country. And why? In order to produce tax giveaways for a handful of billionaires. You get the idea, so that Jeff Bezos can buy a third yacht, or Mark Zuckerberg can do another party where he dresses up and dances around to entertain people. That's the bottom line here. What the Republicans are trying to do is take away from those who need it to give it to their besties, and that is a handful of billionaires. So look, if that makes you just really feel pretty furious about it, don't just be furious, do something about it. You got the chance right now. This is not over. This is the moment. Call your rep, text your rep, email your rep, get in touch with your rep. And if you do it once, do it a second time and do it a third time, because saving healthcare for 14 million people is worth you're making a few calls and sending a few texts. This is our chance to tell Democrats, independents, and Republicans in the House of Representatives that you're on to them. You weren't fooled by a vote in the middle of the night. You understand what's at stake here, and you do not want our government to cut healthcare for 14 million people just so that a handful of billionaires get even richer.
Listen, I want to break this down just a little bit. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but this right here, I want you to understand. First of all, there's nothing that you need to do under the cover of darkness if it's legit and righteous. Okay? Nothing. Nothing that you need to do. You don't need to schedule a vote for 10:30 at night if you're proud of what's in it. You don't need to schedule a vote for 1 o'clock in the morning if you're proud of what's in it and want the majority of people to see it. Okay? You don't need to do that. The only reason that you're scared, who does that anyway? What job do you know, if you're, unless you're working the third shift? We talking about white collar jobs. We talking about white collar government jobs. Schedules a vote for 10:30 at night. Schedules a vote for 1 o'clock in the morning. That right there tells you what they want you to know about this bill. Not a damn thing. They don't want you to know nothing about it. They don't want you to see how the sausage is being made. Okay, they just want to throw the sausage on your plate when it's done and force you to swallow it down. That's it. So I want to just deal with this just a little bit. How will this bill impact you? Do you make $360,000 or more per year? Dillon, do you? Because I don't. Not yet. You're muted, Dillon. Not yet. I don't make.
I do not.
Yeah, hey, I'm working on it, but I ain't there.
It would take me years to make that kind of money.
I ain't there. I'm trying to win the lottery. If I win the lottery, you will be there, Dillon. You will be there. I'll make sure that you get there. Okay, personally. If you do make more than $360,000 a year, your taxes will decrease substantially. If you make more than 914, Dillon, do you make more than $900,000 a year? I don't.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Unless I've misplaced about $870,000. No.
No. And on average, your taxes will decrease again by $36,320. That's pretty good, right? But if you don't, your taxes will still decrease by $7,000. Now, what happens if you don't make over 360 or over 914, which is almost all of America? Okay. Do you make 157,500 per year? I don't.
Nope.
Do you? I don't. Nope. I mean, I'm doing all right, but I ain't doing that. Okay. If you do, guess what? Your taxes get to go up by $610. If you said no, do you make at least 28,000? Listen, 28,600 per year. I make at least that.
Yeah.
I make at least that. Guess what? Ding, ding, ding. Guess what you get? What's your prize? Your taxes get to go up. Okay. And you don't, and your increase goes up by $720 if you're below that. If you're anywhere below that last slide, your taxes is going up. Now ask yourself why that is. I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this right here. If you're in the poorest 20%, that's 0 to 28,000 income, your taxes are going up $790 a year. Now, I don't know. This is just me. I don't think you could afford for your taxes to go up if you making
not at that level of income.
Okay, I don't think you can afford it. That $790 makes a difference. Okay, that's gas money. That's grocery money. In the second 20%, between 28,000 and 55,000, your taxes are going up $1,430. If you're in that third, we get into middle, 55,000 up to 94,100, your taxes are going up $1,530. If you're in that fourth bracket, 94,000 to 157,500, your taxes are going up $1,790. If you're in that, look, it starts to come down when you get up in that 15%, 157,500 all the way up to 360. Your taxes are still going up though, $610. Oh, but when you get up in that 4%, that top 4%, those folks making $360,000 and $915,000, your taxes go down $7,160. And Lord have mercy if you're in that 1%, Dillon. Lord, if the Lord has blessed you. Okay, if the Lord has been favorable on your life, if you've been paying your tithes and offerings and that prosperity blessing has hit your house, okay, whatever the case, if you're making above about $915,000 a year, which is 99% of this country is not, your taxes go down. You get a tax cut, $36,000. Can you imagine? Now, does that make sense to anybody? What makes anybody think that the folks that are on the right side of this graph need more money and the folks that are on the left side of this graph need less money? Who thought that? This is trickle-down economics. I guess it's going to create more. Here's another thing. You got to look at what's important to these people, right? It's showing the hell ain't you. Ways and means, 3% income boost for the wealthy. Adds $3.8 trillion to the deficit. Armed services, that goes up for a fantasy missile shield built by, guess who? Musk. SpaceX, $144 billion. Homeland Security, $50 billion for the border wall that was never done. That Mexico will never. I thought Mexico was paying for that. What the hell is that even doing in here? Mexico, $67.1 billion. I said y'all need to send that invoice to Mexico. Wasn't Mexico supposed to pay for that? I thought Mexico was paying for that. The judiciary, which is bonus pay. Bonus pay. I watched a congressional hearing. Do you know how much those bonus pay is? It's $48,000 for each one of them. That's more than a lot of people make in a year. $48,000.
Yeah, that's more than I make in a year.
A $48,000 bonus for ICE agents, additional ICE prisons. We're talking about the prison industry getting $6.9 billion with a B. Now let's look at what they're cutting. 60% cut to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, why in the hell you want to cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? I guess we don't want to protect consumers. I guess. Expanding coal mining, offshore drilling, natural resources. That's getting cut. $20.2 billion. Transportation infrastructure rescinds $4 billion for green infrastructure. Why? Why would we rescind? Because Donald Trump. Oversight and government reform. I thought Doge came in to make us more efficient. I thought we needed more oversight, but it cuts $51 billion from government oversight. Agriculture. 3.5 million people will lose their SNAP benefits. Educational workforce. 1.4 million Pell Grant recipients lose their funding. Energy and commerce. 8.6 million people lose Medicaid coverage. It's probably more than that. That is the big, beautiful bill. Now, here's the thing about it. Musk is on his way out of the White House. You know why? It ain't because he found other better things to do. It's because he criticized that bill this week. And the next day, he's posted that he's on his way out. The next day, because he got on the news and had the gall, the unmitigated gall and audacity to say the bill can be big, the bill could be beautiful, but I ain't sure it could be both. Right. Because that's what he said. Those are his words. He said because it basically, and the person that was interviewing him said, he said, I'm looking at this. It erases everything Doge does, and it did in the first year. First of all, who in the hell even knows what Doge did? They haven't put out a solid, fact-checked report on what they have done yet. They stopped reporting.
Yeah, they've lied a lot, though.
Yeah, they stopped reporting on it because they kept messing up the numbers. 8 million turned into 8 billion. You know what I'm saying? They kept messing it up. They're counting wise, so they stopped reporting on how much money they're saving. He said he was going to come in there and save $1 trillion. Didn't get nowhere close. I'd be surprised if he even saved 5 billion. Okay, let alone $1 trillion. Okay, and yes, he's got paid though. Lisa is right. He is getting paid. Every area that must put his fingers into is somehow bringing money to him, or at least keeping him from losing money through rolling back regulations that would have impacted him. He served his purpose. His purpose was to get in there to stop the causes of action that were against him. Many federal causes of action were against him. Get in there, get government contracts approved that were being held up for this reason, that reason, or the third reason, to get in there and make it easier for him to make money and to roll over regulations and violate people's rights and everything and do what he needs to do. He came and did what he came there to do. It wasn't to make anything more efficient. We just okay. It wasn't to make anything more efficient. But the fact that he flat out said, this basically goes against everything I tried to do, he's out. He's out the door. Next day, he's gone.
I saw something today that said that something like 70% of, how did it go? Of all the things that he was targeting were related to his businesses. Mm-hmm. So 70% of Doge target stuff was related to his businesses, so that the world's richest man could get even richer. Mm-hmm. That's obscene. Mm-hmm. And Mike Johnson.
We won't know the half of it until the next administration. We won't know because they're covering up a lot of it. We don't know the half of what they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. And Mike Johnson, talking about this bullshit bill, had the temerity to say, we're not cutting Medicaid, we're not cutting SNAP. The Congressional Budget Office says that you are. I watched it. I watched the dude from the CBO being asked by senators, what's going to happen? Are people going to lose their SNAP benefits? Yes. Are they going to lose their health care? Yes.
Yes.
And then Mike Johnson also said that it was moral to kick people off SNAP and Medicaid because it forces people to work. Well, guess what? Arkansas tried work requirements for these entitlement programs, and it did not increase employment, not one iota.
Go figure.
So Johnson is lying because he made it very plain that the free market is his golden calf. When he was talking about we're going to cut Medicaid, he goes, because it's the free market that we're trying to boost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, when you said that you believed what the Bible says, I can't find any evidence that that's the case, because the free market's not in there, capitalism's not in there, but there's a whole lot in there about if a child asks you for bread and you give them a snake, and there's a whole lot in there about the wealthy and how they oppress people and how, camel can go through a needle's eye and all that stuff. So where's the evidence, Mike,
Mm-hmm.
that you
Mm-hmm.
believe anything that the Bible says? Because there ain't none.
And pretty much this bill is dead on arrival in the Senate.
It better be.
A good handful of them have said there's nothing that Trump can say or do to make them vote for this bill in its current form. But they always say that, right?
Right.
They're saying it adds all this money to the deficit. It asks for the debt ceiling to be increased by like $5 trillion or something like that.
It's like $4 trillion that it's going to add to the deficit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were fiscal conservatives.
Yeah.
And and here, I'm not an accountant and I'm not a tax genius, but I do know that if you want to balance the budget, there's a real simple solution to all this. Tax the wealthy.
Fairly.
That's
and here's
the
the thing,
solution.
and I'm not even for. Some people are anti-wealth. I am not anti-wealth. I believe you deserve as much wealth as you have earned. I am not anti-capitalism. I'm anti-greed. I am anti-corruption. I am anti-grotesque abuse of your wealth used to buy politics, buy offices, buy governorships, buy presidents, buy courts, buy judges, buy police, buy policies, buy systems. I am against that. I am not against wealth. And if you want to become a trillionaire, become a trillionaire. If you earned it, and I'm not. There's some people that are anti-wealth. I'm not. To me, I think that's ridiculous. How the hell are you going to tell me that I don't deserve the money I worked for? Especially I came from nothing and I have a multi-billion-dollar idea, and then you got some clown somewhere talking about you don't deserve to be wealthy. Go on and get the fuck out of here. I deserve whatever I earned. If I created
Right.
$1 billion idea, I deserve $1 billion for it. If I built a multi-billion-dollar business, I deserve multi-billions of dollars that I earned from it. Okay? I'm not anti-wealth. What I am is anti-corruption and wickedness in high places.
Yeah.
And using that wealth to do wicked things, wicked schemes, wicked motives. Okay?
Well, did you see what Jesse Waters said about this whole thing? You know that idiot on the 5, the Jesse Waters, whose mom and dad or his parents wouldn't invite him to Thanksgiving because he's so gross and such a sycophant for Trump. He took the Reagan welfare queen route and said that people on EBT are buying designer bags, and he said it with a straight face, and he said it in an interview with another guy. But if you go to what can SNAP buy, it says fruits and vegetables, meat and poultry and fish, dairy products, breads and cereals, other foods such as snack foods and non-alcoholic beverages, seeds and plants which produce food for a household to eat. You can't even buy hot prepared food.
No.
So
and here's
no.
the thing. I am not. Do these systems need reform? I believe they do. I don't have and I know this might get me in trouble with some people, but I don't care. This is my position. I'm entitled to my opinion, just like the next person. I don't have a problem with drug testing recipients of any government benefit. I don't have a problem with that. If drugs is legal where you're from, then there should be a caveat for that. But I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with putting certain restrictions on what EBT can buy. I don't have a problem with that. I know people do, but I don't. I don't have a problem with saying that what people are paying for has to be healthy food for you to eat. That my taxpayer dollars or whoever's taxpayer dollars, I have had to use food stamps at some point in my life. My mother raised us on that until she got off of it. So I both my kids were I did WIC for both of my kids. So you're not talking about somebody who's been who's on the outside of this system looking in. You're talking about somebody who's been on this inside of that system and then has gotten out. I don't have a problem with drug testing folks who receive Section 8 housing. I don't have a problem with that. If it's illegal in your state. Now, if it's legal in your state, that's another situation. It's another conversation for a different situation. I don't have a problem with making sure people are not doing illegal things with government money on every level, but make it happen on every level. Don't over police the poor and let the rich run amok at the top. This is
Right.
the problem that I have. I don't have a problem with that. But are you drug testing the folks that are in Congress too? A lot of them snorting cocaine. So my thing is, make it even. If you're going to do it across the board. Don't penalize and over police people at the bottom while people at the top get a free lunch and a free hall pass on every goddamn thing that they do.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with you saying that, and I don't give a damn if somebody got a problem with it, what I'm saying right now. This is my opinion. I'm entitled to it. I don't have a problem with you saying that you cannot fill up your whole kitchen with sodas and Doritos on my dime. I don't have a problem with that. So the food got to be healthy or at least reasonably healthy that you buy with taxpayer dollars. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem when you're policing every dime that poor people spend, but you're taking money away from the Financial Protection Bureau, so that you're not interested in policing what rich people are doing to poor people and their money.
Right. Or
I have a
they're
problem with it not being even handed across the board, how you're policing people and how the taxpayer money is getting spent.
Right. Or they're cutting the regulations that would prevent companies from putting toxic shit in food.
Right.
And then poor people
or
buy
lead
that because
pipes or carcinogens in the air and what they call cancer row places, which is usually poor and usually minority communities.
Right.
So you're not worried about policing that, but you want to police a mother of 5 kids and how she's spending every dollar. I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Ain't nobody buying bags with fucking EBT card. You can't even buy a prepared meal with an EBT card, Jesse. And he just said that because he's racist, and he's on Fox News.
And they always want to put a black and brown face in the front of every what they call entitlement. Motherfucker, the primary recipient of each and every entitlement is a white person, elderly, child, in between or otherwise, just because of sheer math. Nothing to do with character, work ethic, upbringing, culture, just math, motherfuckers. Math. Okay? So why you try to keep a black person from getting something and keep a brown person from getting something like you did with DEI? It's going to impact your people the most. DEI was a blessing mostly to white women. Mostly. And so when you're talking about all these policies that you're trying to cut and defund, you cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's your voters. It's your voters at the receiving end of that bullshit that you're doing. A lot of these people that support Trump on Medicaid, on Medicare, on disability, on SNAP, on TANF, on Section 8, a good portion of them.
Yeah, and a lot of them are on the Affordable Care Act and think that they don't care because they're cutting Obamacare. They're the same thing.
But as long as you put my face in front of it, as long as you put Jesus' face in front of it, they're okay with it. But it's about to come around and bite them in the ass. And you're seeing that on social media. You're seeing all these F around and find out videos. All this crying and carrying on. But anyways, that's enough about that. I hope you have some good news going on, or at least a word on the street for us tonight. What you got?
I got a word on the street, and it ties in perfectly to what you just said about rich people and oppression. And on Bible Gateway, it leads off this particular passage Warning to rich oppressors. This is James 5. James 5. Come now, you rich people, weep and wail for the miseries that are coming to you. Your riches have rotted and your clothes are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have rusted, and their rust will be evidence against you and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up your treasure during the last days. Listen, the wages of the laborers who mowed your field, which you kept back by fraud, cry out, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and pleasure. You have nourished your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous ones who does not resist you. The word of the Lord, James chapter 5. And that's about rich people like Mike Johnson, like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, giving tax cuts to the wealthy. What was it? $36,000 tax break for the highest earners.
Everybody else, their taxes going up. Just about everybody.
Yeah.
After you get past 4%, the top 4% in this country, your taxes are going up.
And if you're making $28,600 a year in these United States of America, that is below the poverty line, and they're going to increase your taxes. So James 5 is for y'all. Y'all.
All right. Well, look, that's all, folks. That's it for us tonight. Thank you for tuning in to the God Squad. We will be back next week. I don't think we have a special guest next week, but I believe we have a very special guest the week after, and again the week after that. We got some pretty awesome guests coming up, and we're trying our best to secure some more awesome guests to bring in and give us your feedback. I love to know how you're feeling about the guests that we've had and whether you like us having guests and things like that. I think it's great. I think it adds to the discussion. I love having guests, but let us know how you feel about it. But thank you for tuning in. Dillon, did you have anything as we get ready to close it out?
Peace, love, and chicken grease. No.
Yes, I second that. Love, peace, and chicken grease to all y'all. We'll be right back here next week, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. Don't be square. Be there. All right, y'all have a good week.